Oh, okay, welcome back.
Welcome back to Direct Edition, a podcast about nothing and everything. I'm your host, Dave. I hope everybody's doing today. It is May the 6th. The Revenge of the 5th was yesterday, and May the 4th was the day before. Yes, I am talking about Star Wars. You know, if you take the letters and rearrange them and reverse them, you can make raw rats out of Star Wars. But we're not going to be talking about raw rats today. I'm going to be talking about
Okay.
Probably we'll talk about Jar Jar Binks a little bit. Thanks for coming back for another episode. I hope you enjoyed story time with Dave over the last couple weeks. The episode about me being a USPS mailman during the pandemic, and then my collecting of autographs and hockey sticks, and also the choices that I made after that in my youth. And you know, you can't change the past, but you can still tell funny stories about it. Today, I want to talk to you about a religion that I like to call Star Wars. I've just been thinking about it. I've been enjoying the hell out of Andor Season 2. Andor Season 1, if you haven't watched it, then you maybe don't listen to this episode. Andor Season 1. I'm not going to go into spoilers for Season 2, but Season 1's like 2+ years old. You got no excuse. You're never going to watch it. Andor Season 1 tells a story about kind of a ground level story of how the rebellion starts, and specifically how Cassian Andor gets involved, where we meet him first in Rogue One, which was arguably the best Star Wars movie to come out since Revenge of the Sith. And I'm going to discuss that a little bit too, about how people view Star Wars and the opinions or the lack of interesting opinions. You get this first season of Andor, and it's crafted so perfectly. You get a ground level story that's told in 3 different parts, and it focuses on Andor, and it focuses on the people behind the rebellion. Some of these people being, high society dilettantes, and then Mon Mothma being a senator, and being a politician, but leading this kind of double life. And it's so brilliantly told, the story. One of, if not my favorite aspects of the first season is the score and the way it changes in each of these 3 parts, because it's told 4 episodes, 4 episodes, 4 episodes, and like each one acts as its own kind of micro story within the bigger story. But the way that it shifts and changes to what's happening as you get towards the end of that first season, and they're in prison, and that's where Andy Serkis gets to shine in arguably the best character in that entire series, that is in Andor. And you just get such an interesting kind of like electronic, organic kind of melting down score. It's really hard to explain the feeling I get when I listen to it, when I hear the music. And I'll put on the score every once in a while, because it's fantastic. The cinematography, the locations that they shot at, and just being a ground level story. If you're like me, or like a lot of other people in the world over the course of the last 40 to 50 years, you grew up watching some version of Star Wars. Whether I grew up, the only original one I saw in the theater that I know I saw in the theater was Jedi, and I was, 4 years old or whatever. And it's still, I can still kind of recall a piece of Jabba's scene, seeing it on the sail barge, seeing it on the big screen. But as I grew up and I watched these movies more and more, and I collected the toys, I became more fascinated with just everything Star Wars. But there wasn't a lot or anything to really take in until the 90s that was new. And it started with the Super Nintendo games, Super Star Wars, Super Empire, Super Return of the Jedi. Those Nintendo games came out and reignited my love, and that kind of coincided with the Power of the Force figure line. And I think it's all when Lucas got the licensing rights back. I think that's what happened. They lapsed. He took advantage of it. He saw the loophole. He got him back. And that's when you started to get all this new stuff coming out. It didn't feel like exploitation, because there had been this huge dry spell of having anything. And around that time in the 90s, you got Dark Horse with the comics. You got the Timothy Zahn novels coming out. So all this new or, like nostalgia driven and new material started coming out. And I ate it all up. And all of my friends, we all ate it all up. There was not a kid in the 90s not consuming one of these Star Wars things. And then came the special editions, which honestly at the time I thought were awesome because I'm getting to see the original trilogy in the theater, albeit, it's with this new footage and all that, but it didn't really annoy me, at the time. I grew to dislike some of the choices he made. Empire was pretty much left untouched, which you can't, it's a perfect movie. So there was no reason to do anything. I think they added one scene and that was it. And then Jedi was the one that pissed me off the most because of the change in the songs. It's very weird revisionist thing for Lucas to do on Jedi is to change songs that did not need to be changed whatsoever. Like I don't care what that man's reasoning was for that. If I'm going to pick the one decision that he made that pissed me off, it's that. I don't care that Han shot first bullshit. I don't care. I still love the fact that we got to see those in the theater. And I cut school with like 10 of my friends to go see Star Wars A New Hope the day it came out, special edition. It was amazing. And then came the prequels, and I'm not going to listen to anybody talk about prequel hate because I never hated those movies. And, you can nitpick any piece of fucking art that came out. Like you want to go back and nitpick the trilogy, the original trilogy, have at it. You're going to be wasting your breath and your time. I was just talking to my buddy Tyler about Return of the Jedi, saying that when I was a kid, even into my early adult years, nobody hated Jedi. Nobody ever put that movie in any type of like, I don't like this. This is stupid. Nobody hated the Ewoks. Nobody complained about this stuff post the movies coming out. I wasn't listening to the media in 1983 when Jedi came out, so I don't know if people didn't like the Ewoks. But, it's the same thing with the prequels. People hated Jar Jar, and yet he is no way, any way more annoying than C-3PO is. Like, this weird looking in the rear view mirror revisionist hate, and then like 25 years later it's love again. It's tiresome. It really is tiresome. And when they announced the prequels were coming out, like you hear Duel of the Fates for the first time, you see the pod racing, you see Darth Maul, and it's just like, wow. It felt like being a kid again. And I mean, the late 1990s, 1997, I was 18 years old or whatever, so I was still a kid. But I if I were to pick a prequel that I like the least, it's Clones. But am I going to sit here and be like, my life is ruined by these prequels like a lot of people are? No, it would take a lot more to ruin my life, like, Donald Trump or something. But it was like this fascinating time. They announced the prequels and tickets went on sale, and I bought tickets to go see it in a theater in Syosset, Long Island, which was a single movie theater. It was huge. It's no longer a theater anymore. It became a Planet Fitness or one of those stupid gyms like 15, 20 years ago. This was a movie theater I grew up going to. My dad took me to see RoboCop there. Like, we would go see like whatever movie was playing there. If we all wanted to see it, or my dad and me wanted to see it, we'd go to see it there. It was like 20 minutes from where we lived. And I bought tickets to see it opening day. I slept out with a huge line of people, waiting to buy tickets. And we it was like the biggest nerd centric place in New York at that point. And then I would go on to buy tickets to see it like 3 different times at 3 different theaters the week it came out. And I think by the time like this 3rd week, I had seen that movie 7 times. And I loved it. I still love Phantom Menace. What Lucas was trying to do with those movies is show you how this started, like how we jump in to the rebellion and the Empire and all that stuff in New Hope, and it's this kind of like it's the Skywalkers, right? And it's all that, right? It's that story. And I appreciate what he tried to do, especially in Revenge of the Sith, with Ben and, Padme and Anakin, and like kind of showing how he came to be Darth. But the fascinating thing is, like, it's a political story. It always was. And they gave us so many of these cool little details of how these things came to be. And Andor really digs into that. Like, Andor just takes a shovel and tunnels right into that plot and says, we're going to go even micro and show you some more interesting things. And Tony Gilroy, who's created that show, and he wrote the script for Rogue One, like, he has seen a great path and he's carved it out. But I'll still, the prequel, I get it. Like, it was merchandise to death and it was everywhere. And like, Lucas was doing a maximized version of what he wanted to do with the first trilogy, but he was still just this kind of budding filmmaker that people were taking chances on that nobody really wanted to back. And so he maximized that. And like, look, I mean, if you watch the Disney Plus show ILM, the Light and Magic documentary show, you can see why he was doing what he was doing. Like, he was generating all this money so that he could do these filmmaking things and like build these cameras and fund all this effects stuff that would go on to, what he has created and the things that he created with his creations, ILM and THX and all this stuff. He changed cinema. Like, he changed movies. He changed technology. There's roots of Photoshop date back to stuff that Lucas had certain software developers create that would lead to what Photoshop became. And there's just so much like technology that he was like, all right, well, it doesn't exist. Let's make it. Like, James Cameron did a lot of that. And then Chris Nolan has done that with IMAX. Like, oh, there's no camera for a plane for IMAX. All right, well, we'll just make one. And that's, it's a super insanely cool thing. It's only something you can do when you have that kind of power and money, but it's done for good. This is helping cinema going forward. It's creating all this, technology for people to use. I'm sure there's things that they created that maybe weren't great, but I don't know. People don't talk about the fails. I can understand why some people have certain gripes about some of these movies. And then, you can go into the Disney, what we're in now, the Disney era with the sequels. They had a good idea on certain things. I'm Team Rian Johnson, 100%. It just seems that Disney went into the kitchen without a real recipe, and then they listened to the wrong fans about a lot of the stuff. And then we get, the third one, Rise of Skywalker, which I'll say this. And when I first saw it, I was like, this was a mess. And I think I saw it twice in the theater, and both times I was like, this is a mess. But I was also smart enough before I saw Rise of Skywalker, maybe 2 days before, to watch Revenge of the Sith, because I was like trying to just kind of recap some of the Emperor stuff and Anakin. And there is a line or two in Revenge of the Sith that literally, if that wasn't in that movie, Rise of Skywalker would have made absolutely no sense. Instead, it made kind of no sense, where the Emperor says something about the dark, the dark side can, that side of the Force can be used to do unnatural things like bring somebody back from the dead. And, that's where you get Palpatine coming back. But still, I watched it a couple years ago for the first time in probably 2 years. And I was like, it's a mess. There's still some things to like about it. I mean, that's just me in a nutshell. Unless something completely fucking sucks, like, I don't know, like the Craven movie, which I watched for free in the comfort of my own couch. That movie completely sucked, but I still laughed at it. I was just like, what is actually happening here? Like, I was baffled. Madam Web was made better by the episode of Trash Movie Bonanza that Chris Pierce and Jim Mafu did. But when it comes to Star Wars, there's not too much I don't enjoy. Like, I can take joy from the things like that I really, really love. I didn't love Solo. That's so I won't go back and watch it. I think I watched it twice. Donald Glover as Lando was a great casting choice, and he's charming as hell, and he's perfect for that role. Woody Harrelson's Woody Harrelson. I didn't care for the dude who played Han Solo. I do not like what's her name that played Khaleesi and played whatever her name in the movie is. So forgettable. I'm just not a fan of her at all, acting wise. And then the Darth Maul reveal at the end was really cool. But, to me, that movie didn't need to be made, and I didn't like it. But that doesn't mean I thought it was a horrible piece of shit. It doesn't mean I hate it. I won't knock you for liking it. It's just not something I enjoyed. That's okay. I'm not going to like everything, but I like most things because I choose to. I choose to enjoy. It's far better than taking a look at certain things in real life and being like, I love that. Because, there's so much in reality that is sad or disgusting versus fiction, which is, comes from a creative standpoint. And that's why I think Andor is just so fantastic. It does bridge those gaps too of like, it's parallel to what's going on, and it's a good bit of fiction too. But, things like the show Asoka, absolutely loved it. And I did not come from watching the Clone Wars. I watched all of Rebels. Clone Wars is super daunting. When you look at it from a standpoint, before you get all angry, when you look at it from a standpoint who didn't watch Clone Wars coming out, has no frame of reference for anything about that animated show. And then people tell you, oh, you got to watch Clone Wars. Here's all the episodes you should watch and the order you should watch them in. You lost me. You lost me right there. And it's not, it's just because just give me something I can watch in a linear fashion. Don't tell me I have to watch episode 36 and 42 and then come back to this because it tells this story. That just complicates things. That's just me, though. It's not because I don't want to watch it. Just because I don't want to go through that effort to watch it. The Acolyte was whatever. I didn't like that, but I'm not sitting here making a podcast about me hating it. I'd rather talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, which I really love seeing Ewan McGregor again. The Mandalorian, which, the third season was a little bit rough on the landing, but that doesn't mean I'm throwing away the entirety of that show. If then there's the things where if I wasn't enjoying it, which probably means I did enjoy a little bit of The Acolyte, I wouldn't finish watching it. I don't force myself to do things I don't like. I've done it a couple of times. I did it with Westworld. I hate watched the second season, and then I tapped out because that show went from being amazing to what the fuck just happened. And every once in a while, I think I hate watched all of True Blood after the first season. I was like, this is going to get better, right? It just never did. But I generally try to stay on the positive side. And in find things that I enjoy about the things that I'm watching. But honestly, to me, it's the discord of hate. And I don't mean the app Discord. I mean people just sharing, shitting all over things. We have become a society that consumes that, enjoys it, imitates it, and puts that back out there. And it's a waste. It's a waste of time in my eyes. I know there's certain people right now steaming. One of them might actually be in Colorado and is probably punching the device he's listening to on because, yeah. But I just don't see the point to shit all over a thing that I actually love. And it goes back to what I was saying about talking to my buddy Tyler about Return of the Jedi. Give me a reason why that movie isn't the third best Star Wars movie. If you're gonna say the Ewoks, throw your opinion in the garbage because they're it's part of what Star Wars does. There's the Jawas. There's Yoda, who's he was the only thing on that planet, but there's the Ewoks. These movies were made for kids. And I go back to this thing that I had heard on somebody's YouTube channel, this guy, the Comic Doctor. It seems like a nice enough guy, whatever. I think it was during The Acolyte last year, or maybe it was one of the other shows. And he's on his YouTube channel and he's got like 60 people in the chat, and he's talking about how like George Lucas didn't make Star Wars for kids. Like Star Wars isn't supposed to be for kids. And I'm like, what? And then, fast forward to I know that he made it for kids. I've been reading about George Lucas, reading interviews and watching interviews with him since I was a kid. But like I actually went and grabbed the magazine that I have that has a interview with him from 1977. It was right before, or right after the movie came out, where he says the studio didn't want to back him because he wanted to make the movie for kids. And he's like, that studio's like, oh, no kid's going to like a sci-fi, this space opera. And he's like, well, I'm going to make it, and it's for kids. But then you go to this ILM series on Disney, and he directly says like he wanted to make a movie for kids. And I think Coppola's like, you should do what you want, even though the studio didn't want to put the movie out. And it's like, yeah, of course he made these movies for kids. And then he made the prequels for kids. The hidden messages in it, the message of the Empire, like you go back to the original source material about, the stormtroopers and all that, that's World War II stuff. And he's putting that in a kid's story because great material made for kids traditionally has a message in there that everybody, kid or adult, will eventually get. Go back to children's books. You go to Sesame Street. I mean, they're not going to talk about Imperials on Sesame Street, but like everything has this, everything that's for kids eventually like has, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, most art for kids has some message in there. And like, I just don't understand people who think they own the thing that somebody else created. Like they take the ownership. And I don't feel like I own Star Wars. I do own this, but I feel like it's part of me, and it's part of me that somebody else created. But I don't get mad when something isn't good that comes from that, or for any matter, for the things that I like. I may be bummed if a band puts out an album that I don't connect with, or, I didn't like this piece of art that this person created. But it doesn't make me not like them. It doesn't make me not like myself. I just move on to the next thing that I do derive joy from. But with Star Wars, this is a sentiment that I think has gone around for a while, but I say it often. Star Wars fans ruined Star Wars. Like, it is really tough to have a kinship with fellow Star Wars fans anymore when they're all negative. Like, as a whole, like, I don't seem to, there are some Star Wars friends who are fans, there we go, who I share opinions with, and we like it. But as a whole, I don't really associate with that fandom anymore. It's too much. It becomes extremely toxic too quick. I can't have conversations with people because I fucking hate this, or I don't like this. What do you like? Oh, well, I like Empire. And it's like, okay, one movie. Just look at how, like I said, the prequels are perceived these days. Like Hayden Christensen can't do any wrong anymore. Ahmed Best is, he's somebody that people love now, as opposed to what the media created that turned everybody to hate Jar Jar. And if you watch the ILM doc, you see it really was the media that did this. And I won't harp on this too much, just because I think it'll drag it down into super negative territory. But it seemed to me, from the outside looking in, as a 18-year-old to 19-year-old with the internet just starting, it really seemed that episode 1 was the beginning of online hate. Like, in a mass way, where people were like, yeah, this sucks. This is terrible. Like, we all hate episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. And I just like, I don't know. I guess it's very much like the Force. You have to struggle to stay on the light side. The dark side is the temptation. Give in to your hate. Give in to your anger. Join me. And I don't know. I'm just not that person. I haven't been that person for like 20 something years, at least. But the future of Star Wars to me looks pretty bright with Filoni and Jon Favreau really kind of steering the ship in the right direction. As much as I said that the season 3 of The Mandalorian was a little bit of a clunker, still excited for what comes next. Ahsoka season 2, I can't wait for that because I really enjoyed Ahsoka. I mean, it does help that I've been a huge Rosario Dawson fan since I was, young. And that's not going away anytime soon. But I also just really enjoy seeing those characters on Rebels brought to life. And Andor season 2, which I'm assuming this is the last season because Cassian does not live too much longer, and then Rogue One is where it all ends. What a fantastic show, just crafted absolutely perfect. Every piece of it seems to work on every level, and it seems to be pissing off the people that don't understand that Star Wars is a story about freeing from the oppressor, destroying the empire. If you don't get it, you might be on the wrong side. But I love Star Wars, and I want to keep talking about Star Wars. I always do. There's never a point where I don't want to talk about Star Wars. It's, like I said, part of me. It's the one kind of mainstay that's been here since my childhood that, is something that I just love. I'm not talking about real life stuff like my family. They've been here. And it's just something that it's never far from who I am at the core. I think it's that story is a great moral tale. And I hope they keep telling stories from it. There's so much to explore. There's comics, there's books, there's video games. It's just, there's so much of it. I never get tired of Star Wars things. And I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, get away from the Skywalker family and all that stuff. Like, I just love it all. I don't really care. And that's okay if you don't. I also love this movie, Jaws. Spielberg, Lucas, for life. And I'm open to discussion if anybody wants to drop comments about having a discussion. I don't really, once again, like if you're going to bring hate into it and you're just going to be negative, like go somewhere else. That's not for this podcast and it's not for me. But I know a lot of you listening, if not most of you, really enjoy Star Wars or enjoy something about Star Wars. And, I just don't really care about the negativity part of it because it's a work of fiction that you choose to consume. It's not, nobody owes anything to you. And that's just how I see it. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. But before we get going, please do me a favor. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Drop a comment on one of the platforms you're listening to. Review it. You can give me a star rating on Spotify. You can give me a star rating on Apple. You can choose to hit the like button on YouTube. Any interaction from you, my audience, helps push this out to new people. And got some great interviews coming up in the next couple weeks before we take our season 3 ending break. And we'll see what happens. We'll see who else we get to talk to. I'm excited to bring you some great conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening to Direct Edition. I'm your host, Dave, and may the Force be with you.
Oh, Misa used the Force.